HBO just made a Westeros episode where absolutely nothing happens, and it's brilliant. Alright, if you're a Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon fan, and you came into A Night of the Seven Kingdoms expecting dragons, political backstabbing, or kingdoms on the brink of war, this episode doubles down on saying that that's not this story. And honestly, that's why it's working. This is your spoiler-free review for episode 2 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Hard Salt Beef. And this show continues to do something very different in Westeros. No throne rooms, no grand speeches about destiny, just mud, memory, and a very tall knight trying to figure out who he's supposed to be. Episode 2 slows things down even more, but in a way that's quietly doing some heavy character work under the surface. This isn't about what happens, it's about what it means. By the end of this episode, Dunk isn't just fighting to enter a tournament, he's fighting to understand what knighthood actually is.
On the morrow, we will show them what his hand has wrought.
A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is back with episode 2, and it does something I weirdly love. It ends right when I don't want it to. That same feeling from episode 1, you're just settling into Dunk and Egg's world, the quiet, the small conversations, the ordinary moments, and then credits. Now some people will say nothing really happened. It's slow, it's mundane, but that's exactly why this series works. This isn't Game of Thrones where kingdoms shift every scene. This isn't House of the Dragon where every family dinner feels like a political assassination waiting to happen. This is Westeros at ground level, and episode 2 fully leans into that. We aren't watching legends yet. We're watching a man trying to figure out if he even belongs in the story at all. What makes this episode smart isn't plot, it's character. Dunk spends most of this episode chasing a memory. The memory of Sir Arlen, his mentor, his father figure, the man who taught him what knighthood should be. But here's the painful part. The more Dunk talks about him, the more the world doesn't remember him. Lords don't recall his name,
I know him not, man.
Stories don't line up, and even the great deeds that Dunk believed in start sounding smaller, fuzzier, like stories that grew over time. And you can see it slowly hitting him. If the knight he looked up to wasn't a legend, then what does that make Dunk? This is grief mixed with identity. Because losing Arlen isn't just losing a person, it's losing the image Dunk built his entire future around. Was I foolish? Did I misunderstand everything? Am I chasing something that doesn't exist? You can feel that weight building through the episode. At the same time though, Dunk is changing. In episode 1, he can barely speak to nobles. Now he's walking up to lords, knights, even royalty, trying to be seen. He's still awkward, still out of place, but there's growth there. It's like watching somebody try on an identity to see if it fits. Dunk meets members of the Kingsguard, the most elite knights in the realm, but the show cleverly reminds us, even legendary knights are still men. They joke, they complain, they're human. It quietly challenges the romantic image of knighthood that we're all used to. And this show keeps reinforcing how different that world of great knights really is. Some of these men talk about honour, but also gossip, judge, hold grudges, act petty. The shine is fading. Dunk is starting to realise knighthood isn't a shining statue, it's flawed people wearing armour. There's also a puppet performance in this episode telling the story of a foolish knight and love. It may seem random, but it's actually a metaphor for Dunk. The message, sometimes being a fool, hopeful, kind, idealistic, it's what makes somebody truly heroic. And that idea carries straight into the jousting, because now we're watching Dunk measure real knights against the kind of knight that the story says truly matters. Before Dunk enters the tent with the knights and Targaryens, he meets Gwyn Ashford, the young girl this whole tournament is meant to celebrate. But she's being ignored, so she makes her own fun. She teases Dunk, spreads wild rumours and runs off laughing. In the book, she barely exists, but the show gives her personality. Dunk overhears Prince Baelor and Prince Maekar. Maekar complains about being forced to attend. The Targaryens don't have dragons anymore, so they have to show up and be seen to maintain authority. Tournaments are like royal PR now. We also learn Makar's sons are missing, and his harsh attitude shows how brutally powerful fathers can be. Baelor, though, listens and treats Dunk with respect, showing that maybe true knights and good princes still exist.
Sir Arlen of Pennytree. He never won a tourney that I know, but he never shamed himself either.
Then there's the jousting scene. Dunk watches from the sidelines as knights clash in the lists, armour slamming, lances shattering, the crowd cheering. On the surface, it looks thrilling, even glorious, but for Dunk, it's complicated. He sees the strength, the skill, the tradition, and he feels both inspired and out of place. It's a mirror of his own journey. Here are men who are considered knights by birth or reputation. They're polished, trained, and expected to perform perfectly. And here's Dunk, still learning, still awkward, still trying to figure out if he even belongs. There's also something painfully human about it. The jousting isn't romanticised like it is in House of the Dragon. It's loud, sweaty, brutal. Some of these great knights are reckless, some petty, and some proud to a fault. Watching them, Dunk realises that knighthood isn't just about shining armour or winning tournaments. It's about character under pressure, something not everyone has. It's a small scene on the surface, but it's huge for Dunk. It shows the gap between what he thought knighthood was and what it really requires. And that gap is the heartbeat of this episode. And that leads into something this series does that Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon rarely did. It removes the fantasy gloss. There's a moment this episode that surprised a lot of viewers. Not because it's shocking in a dramatic way, but because it's awkward, human, and completely enormous. I mean, completely unglamorous. And that's the point. This show doesn't present knights like legends carved in stone. These are just men, in bodies, in armour, hot, uncomfortable, vulnerable. It keeps dragging Westeros down from myth and placing it in reality. Because this story isn't about destiny, it's not about prophecy, it's not about bloodlines saving the world, it's about whether being a good man actually means something. By the end of this episode, Dunk reaches a quiet realisation. Maybe Sir Arlen wasn't a champion, maybe he wasn't famous, maybe he wasn't perfect, but he was good to Dunk. He raised him to be honourable, to protect the weak, to try, and Dunk understands something powerful. If no one else remembers him, then I'm his legacy.
His name was Sir Arlen of Pennytree. And I am his legacy.
That's not glory, that's not fame, that's something quieter, but maybe more meaningful. So while this episode might look small on the surface, it's doing something big underneath. It's redefining what knight means in this world. Not trophies, not reputation, but character. Now before we wrap up, here's a note for the book fans. This episode is surprisingly faithful to the original material. Dunk's conversations with Tanzel and Tate come almost directly from the page. The Makar and Boar dialogue mostly matches the pages too. Some elements are new for the show. The flashback with Sir Arlen, the Kingsguard dialogue, and the Dunk and Egg scenes are all invented for television. Even the jousting was slightly tweaked, happening at night instead of during the day. But these changes don't feel disruptive. They enhance the story's intimate, grounded tone while keeping the spirit of the book intact. And that's episode 2 of Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Hard Salt Beef. Quieter on the surface, but doing a lot of heavy lifting underneath. This series really feels like it's asking a different question than Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon ever did. Not who deserves power, but who deserves to be called good. And this is where I'm going to throw it back at you guys listening. Are you enjoying this smaller, character-focused approach, or are you missing the big political chaos and high-stakes drama? Let me know down in the comments below. I genuinely want to see where people stand on this one. And as always, if you enjoyed this spoiler-free breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe for the rest of the episode reviews, and stick around, because I feel that this story is building towards something big, just in a very different way than we're all used to. And a massive thank you and shout out to HBO as always for the press access in 2026 and for providing the high definition episode images. It genuinely means a lot to be recognised by the people who brought Westeros to life on screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.